everybody. Welcome to another episode. I'm Mike Monticello.
I'm Mike Quincy.
And I'm Keith Barry.
So today we're going to be talking about a pretty interesting vehicle. It's going to be our first impressions of the 2025 Mazda CX-50 Hybrid, which is a joint venture between Mazda and Toyota. And in short, it's like a Mazda CX-50 with a Toyota RAV4 hybrid powertrain, but it's a little more involved than that. And of course, we're going to get into all of that. Now, we purchased one for our test program, and we bought a 2025 Mazda CX-50 Hybrid Premium, and it powertrain is a 2.5-liter four-cylinder gas engine with electric drive for a total system output of 219 horsepower, the same as the RAV4 hybrid. It uses an electronic continuously variable transmission, or an ECVT, and all CX-50s and CX-50 hybrids come standard with all-wheel drive. Along with a few minor options, plus the $1,420 destination fee that Mazda charges on all CX-50 hybrids, the total cost of our test car came to $40,100. On the active safety and driver assistance front, the CX-50 hybrid comes standard with automatic emergency braking with pedestrian and cyclist detection, automatic emergency braking that operates at highway speeds, blind spot warning, rear cross traffic warning, lane departure warning, lane keeping assistance, adaptive cruise control, and automatic high beams. So that's the specs on our test car. But Mike Quincy, let's start with you. Tell us kind of the how and the why of how this collaboration came to be between Mazda and Toyota.
Well, they have a joint partnership in a plant in Huntsville, Alabama. It produces the Toyota Corolla Cross and the CX-50. They have side-by-side, actually, production lines. So, it really is a joint collaboration. And we see this a lot with auto manufacturers. Certain manufacturers don't have like specialties. Like, for example, Mazda doesn't have a specialty with hybrid powertrains, but certainly Toyota does. And when you think about the marriage of Mazda and Toyota in this case, Mazda has always been known for some style, engaging handling.
Yep.
Toyota's known for reliability, pretty straightforward controls. So as they say, on paper, it makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned the Mazda is not really known for their hybrids, and we know that because the CX-90 PHEV, that was something Mazda did on its own without Toyota's collaboration, and that didn't work out quite so well, right, Keith?
Yeah, so the CX-90 PHEV, if that's the plug-in hybrid that they made, and the CX-90 was actually kind of cool. It was Mazda did basically everything from scratch. It was a whole new design, the whole vehicle, three-row vehicle, but they had some growing pains. We heard things in our reliability surveys. If you looked, there were a ton of recalls early on. It almost felt like the one that we had in our test program. We could never get into it because there was always a red flag on the keyboard that
do not
said,
drive.
Yeah, do not drive, needs to go to the dealer for a recall. And that's sort of just what happens when you do something from scratch. Your first time doing something, you're never going to be as good as your 100th time. Go back to watch our first times on this podcast. It's not going to be as good.
We were terrible.
We were terrible. So
yeah, no, I mean, there was coming from after having tested the CX-90, the regular model with the inline-6 turbo engine, which was so nice. Again, had a couple of kind of minor low-speed stumbles, but once you got going, it was pretty good. But the PHEV kind of like magnified everything and definitely had much bigger low-speed delays. Mm-hmm. There was hiccups. There was shudders related to the hybrid powertrain, just that you wouldn't typically see on modern hybrids, right? This is something
the noise. It had these weird sounds during the handoffs, and you know what? I'm sure they're going to get it right, or they're going to license out to Toyota to get it right. But why do work that someone else has already done better?
Right.
Why replicate something when someone else is already doing it and they're willing to share it, well, probably sell it, share it with a hefty fee with you? So why not take Toyota's hybrid system, which is the best in the business, which we've, for years and years, they've had decades of practice on this. So why not use it and combine it with your what you're good at, which, like Quint said, is a little bit of flair, a little bit of engaging driving, good handling. Why not put that all together?
And that's what we're going to be talking about today, is how did it work out. And we do have a first drive on the CX-50 hybrid, and it was written by this kind of obscure, little-known author, some guy named Keith Barry.
Yeah, I never heard of the guy.
Who's that?
I wouldn't trust
Have
the
you
word he
seen this
says.
guy?
And I love the way this guy started this first drive. And again, it's on our website, consumerreports.org. Felix and Oscar, Bert and Ernie, Grace and Frankie. There's a reason why odd couples are such a popular sitcom trope. At their best, these unlikely pairings demonstrate what's possible when two people build a common strength out of their individual differences. It's also what makes the Mazda CX-50 hybrid such an interesting vehicle. So, Keith, those were your words?
Well,
expand a little bit upon.
I got a little help on that, I got to say. I said one of our younger coworkers, when she was reading it, said, I originally had Larry and Balky. And she said, who are they? And I said, it's Perfect Strangers. And she says, oh, was that a good TV show? And I said, no, it was terrible, but we didn't have anything else to watch. There were like 2 channels.
Point taken, but always check in with the younger people.
Yeah, so I brought it back to bringing it back to cars, back when we only had a couple of choices of compact SUVs. You drove a RAV4, a CR-V. That's all there was. Now there's something for everyone. And the good news is that, I really liked the time I spent driving. I spent a decent amount of time in it, in the CX-50 hybrid. Yeah, it had that kind of, Toyota hybrid flair, that, sort of...
Flair in this case is not a good thing.
F-L-A-R-E.
Not styling
yes,
flair.
No, the engine flare. The engine flare that you get when you're accelerating. And, that's basically the only thing about it I didn't like. I like the fact that it has more standard active safety features. It was comfortable. Now, obviously, Mazda is one of those manufacturers. You kind of have a really big difference between the high trim levels and the low trim levels. That's something I really like about Consumer Reports. We buy the version that most people buy. So if you read from some of the other places, they'll say, Mazdas have the best interiors. Mazdas can have the best interiors. Right. And in this case, comfortable.
And just for clarity, the vehicle that you wrote about was one that we rented from Mazda, which was the top level.
Exactly. But at the same time, the fundamentals of the vehicle were solid. Driving it back to back with the non-hybrid version, it's a little quieter around town. It gets all those hybrid benefits. And the RAV4 hybrid is a great car, but this just feels, the steering feel is just a little bit quicker.
I think that's one of the big things with this is that you do have that nice CX-50 Mazda handling feel to it. The steering feels better than in the RAV4. I thought the hybrid felt a little softer through corners than the regular CX-50, but the trade-off is that you have a slightly better ride. I thought it was more comfortable than the CX-50 we tested had, I believe, 20-inch wheels, and which are just way too large for such a small vehicle like that. And so the ride was pretty brittle. This one has more reasonable wheels and tires, and then it's got a little more weight as well. I think just almost 300 pounds more weight, which sometimes can help to settle a vehicle. And so I think there was a nice benefit here of you got more of a benefit with the ride comfort with only maybe a small amount detriment in handling. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and we're also finding this is kind of the case with all hybrids, across, not all, but nearly all hybrids.
Yeah.
Years ago, hybrids were more expensive, had a slow payback, and were worse than their non-hybrid counterparts. They were less fun to drive. Now we're finding almost across the board that the hybrid version of the car is the better version of the car. Yes. That that electric shove off the line, the extra weight, the distribution, the cars they're better vehicles. So it's not like the only reason you'd buy a hybrid is to save money on fuel economy, and you're actually going to save money. They're not these, there's not a huge difference in price between the hybrid and the non-hybrid version.
And typically now, it's a great point, Keith. This is exactly what we're seeing. And I remember years ago, I did not enjoy driving just about any hybrid. And now typically the hybrid version gets a better road test score, which basically is CR's way of saying which vehicle is a nicer vehicle to drive. Higher road test score, it's a little nicer to live with. Now, we haven't tested the CX-50 hybrid yet, so we don't know for sure, but it's looking pretty good so far. Would you agree, Quince?
Yeah, absolutely. And you say looking, let's get back to the flare comment. I mean, argue styling is up to the eye of the beholder.
Wait, which flare are we talking about? The engine flare or the styling flare?
We're taking the stylish flare.
Okay. We're all very stylish here, right. As you can tell.
And when you think about Mazda, they often will have just a little extra when it comes to the exterior design. Certainly the interior design, as you and I have spent a lot of time looking at cars fit and finish, Mazda always seems to make their interiors look and feel more expensive than they are. And it's in some ways, it's just magical. I don't know how they do it, but they always seem to pull it off.
And I think in this case, it's maybe even more obvious than in some other Mazda models, right, where are a little higher up, those Mazda models, like maybe the CX-90, a little higher up in price. But when you're talking about versus the RAV4, and this is not to denigrate the RAV4, but Toyota is known for making solid cars, not necessarily making flashy or cars with flair. Well, when you think about, you look at all the padded areas of this CX-50 hybrid, whether it was our premium trim or the top level that we also rented, just lots of padded areas all over the place, lots of nice stitching. One of the things Toyota really does terribly, and you can agree with me on this, I think, is the steering wheel stalks just sound super plasticky, whereas these have like a nice damp quality to them. And we'll get into the controls in a second here, but just the way, like the solid click of the temperature knobs in the CX-50, I think they really, this is an area where it's quite a bit better, I think, than the RAV4.
Yeah, it's kind of what you get when if you have a discussion about which one to buy. That's one of the arguments for the Mazda. I will say that I'm not crazy about our car's black wheels, but that's just a
that's
style.
Thing.
Yeah. That's a personal preference. But
no brake dust. No worries about cleaning up the brake dust.
I want to ask you guys about the front seats, because I like them. And again, this is a thing where everyone's body is different, right? The seats work pretty well for me. I wouldn't say they're super comfortable, but they're comfortable enough, and they have enough side bolstering to hold me in place. And the bottom cushion, especially, a lot of seats sacrifice bolstering on the bottom cushion, just so you can move your legs around a little more. But I thought Mazda did a really nice job. But looking in the logbook comments so far, a lot of people are saying that they don't like the seat and that it's too hard for them. They can only stand it for an hour or so. Keith, did you have any issues with it?
Yeah, no. This is one of those ones where I'm so glad that our reviews are not written by one person, right, that they're written by a group of people, because I would have said great seats, yeah, great, right, wonderful for a long drive, and I was shocked when I opened that logbook to see how many people said I wouldn't buy this car because of the seats.
Right,
and that is why it's great to have a lot of people reading it. Also, B, it's good to have a test drive. This is why you really need to test drive the car, and that can be a make or break for some folks. I could see someone choosing between this car and the RAV4 hybrid based on that.
Oh yeah, based
solely on the seats, because it's important. It's literally how you interface with the car. It's incredibly important. And for me, not an issue.
And as you were responding to Monty's deserved praise for your story, which also and the Talking Cars audience should know that the three of us love working with words, and it's why we do what we do.
We try and write good.
Write good, talk okay.
And I have to jump on Monty's bandwagon here. I loved your story.
It was
but
fantastic.
When you kind of gave your kind of preamble about this Mazda, you said, I like the seats, and I thought, oh, red flag. We're going to be talking about this because the logbook in our car is not unanimous at all for the seats. I too found them a little bit stiff, but I was lucky that I had it for a weekend, put a lot of miles on it, drove way upstate New York, and so a lot of hours and time driving it. And I kind of agree with you, Monty. It's okay. It's not a deal breaker.
Right.
A little stiff, but the seats are a funny thing, because sometimes you say, well, if the seat is stiffer, it holds up over time.
That's true.
And it's not how you think about like your
the
couch.
Support meaning, yeah.
Yeah, so your couch is nice and soft and cushy, and you can fall asleep while you're, watching a hockey game or something like that. But car seats, if they're too soft and mushy, some people say, well, it's giving me a backache, or it's not supportive, or whatever like that. So, but as you said, Keith, it's such a personal thing. You have to try it before you buy it.
And let's talk about another thing. So we said that basically, if you like the RAV4 Hybrid's powertrain, you're going to feel the same way about this because it's basically the same powertrain, with the one exception that I think Mazda's seems a little more refined, only because I feels like there's more sound deadening maybe in the car. So when the engine does that flaring where the CVT allows the revs to rise really high during, even regular acceleration or hard acceleration, it doesn't do any simulated upshifts. We see that with some CVTs. This eCVT does not do those simulated upshifts to kind of bring the revs back down. But where I'm going with this is, so that's very similar. And if you drive the car gently, it's going to be no problem. Like you're going to be fine with it. It's only when you're like climbing a long hill or whatever. But one area, basically the interior is completely different between the two vehicles. And that's why I wanted to talk about controls for a second, because Mazda is not, we typically do not score them very well on controls. And is that the case with the CX-50 hybrid, Keith?
Yeah, so it's interesting. Mazda's going it alone and going down this very different path. And in the past, they've claimed they've had independent research on this that supports it, that people liked having a physical controller for the screen.
Right.
We like physical controls. We love physical controls.
Just not this one.
Just not those physical controls. Exactly. So there's this kind of, and I'm sure if you're watching the video version, you'll see some B-roll of it right now, this rotary controller that you can use to control the screen. And it works differently depending on if you're using CarPlay or Android Auto. It works, differently depending on how what menu you're in. And in some ways, the idea is that it's supposed to give you tactile feedback so you don't have to take your eyes off the road. That's great if you don't have like 200 options to choose from. Yes, you get tactile feedback, but if there are so many different options on the menu, you can't differentiate among them. Otherwise,
Keith is being nice now.
I don't know.
You're being so polite.
I don't hate it.
What do you want to say? What do you want to say? I feel like you want to say something.
Is dumb. It's
okay.
Just dumb because we're in this world of touchscreens, whether it's your phone, a tablet, or most of the cars that we test here at Consumer Reports. And Mazda is like, they have independent research says blah, blah, blah. They're just being stubborn, or they don't have the money to invest in a whole new interface. But Keith, you're such a good guy. You're being very, very tactful about this.
I don't listen.
But, oh my gosh, it's the worst part about the
maybe
car.
I'm comparing it to the old Lexus Remote Touch or whatever the heck Acura's doing,
iDriver, whatever,
or like whatever Acura's doing. But they're like the dual mice or touchpads or whatever. No, okay,
and like we see with a lot of cars, you drive it a lot, you kind of get used to it. The time that I spent with our CX-50, I got used to it. It still doesn't mean it's a good design.
And one caveat here is that there is an option in the connectivity settings that allows you to enable what Mazda calls touch control while in motion, which allows you to be able to use the touch screen instead of the controller for just Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. So
not a lot of people know this.
Right. No, it's true. Right.
Which is good. I mean, I'll give them credit for that.
Right. So at least there's that.
It does mean you have to reach pretty because it's
that's
designed.
The problem.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, it's designed to be used by the center controller. So
so in other words, because of the way that they designed it, there's no perfect way to use it.
Right.
Because either you're using the controller, which pretty much most people here don't like, or you're having to reach too far for the screen.
Right. But they do have physical controls for the climate system.
Yep.
You give them credit for that.
And they have a nice little click to them too.
Yeah.
Yes.
They have those are called detents.
Thank you for that, Keith.
Send them to detention.
We're going to be detention pretty
soon.
That's
called Keith explaining.
No, you taught me that.
Keith explaining. Explaining.
Explaining?
Yeah.
Explain.
Anyway,
they're very satisfying detents.
This is going off the rails.
So you don't have an RV and you're sleeping in detent.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Okay, so now we've talked quite a lot about kind of the ways that they're similar and different, the CX-50 hybrid and the RAV4 hybrid. So Keith, I'm going to start with you. If you had to choose between these two hybrids, which one would you go with and why?
Well, I'd choose the one with the cheaper lease deal. No, I would. No,
Well,
honestly, price is a factor.
Sure.
It's about a $2,000 difference between if you're going like the base hybrid to base hybrid.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Who's higher? Who's lower?
Toyota's lower. So Toyota's the cheaper car.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, granted, the the Toyota hybrid does not have standard blind spot warning. So you actually are getting some different things with the CX-50 hybrid that you wouldn't get. So you're getting some more stuff.
And 1 more mile per gallon for the RAV4 as well.
Exactly.
Again, according to EPA, and we're talking EPA numbers because we haven't done our own testing on the CX-50 hybrid yet. So 39 mpg combined for the RAV4 hybrid, 38 mpg combined for the CX-50 hybrid, according to the EPA. So
It's someone else's money. If someone comes to me, this is going on my list of cars that I kind of personally, well, okay, not yet. I'm going to wait for our full road test just to make sure. But I have a funny feeling that this car is going to do pretty well based on how we've talked about it. And based on how the RAV4 is done and based on how the CX-50 is done.
Right.
So this car is probably going to go on my list. The CX-50 is going to go on my list of, hey, did you try driving? Did you head to the Mazda dealership? Did you try going to my friends and family, that they've all been to a Mazda dealership because they asked me about a car. I said, just test drive it. See if you like it. Yeah. So I would say just all things considered, the CX-50 gets the nod from me.
Nice. And what about you, Quince?
Well, we kind of touched on the Toyota 2.5 liter 4-cylinder engine being kind of noisy, not super refined and all that stuff. And I get it. It deserves the criticism. However, just reflecting back on my experience with our last Toyota RAV4 hybrid, I'm going to ignore the 2.5 liters noise because I'm enjoying a 540-mile cruising range. So to me, that kind of compensates for it. And you also touched on this before. Our CX-50 hybrid is about 345 pounds heavier than our last tested RAV4 hybrid. So I'm thinking that maybe the Mazda's cruising range won't be as robust as the RAV4's. So where I'm going with is I'm choosing the RAV4 hybrid. I'm going to spend the extra cash to get the limited version. It's still not as nice inside as the CX-50. I'll definitely concede that. But the controls, the day-to-day controls for the Toyota are just head and shoulders above the Mazdas. This is stuff that you use all the time. And I really like that familiarity, I suppose. I understand it's not as engaging to drive. The steering isn't as fun. The handling isn't as cool. But this is going to be a utility vehicle for me. I'm going to take this car to Costco. It's going to be the official dog car because we have a dog in our house. It's going to haul around the various furniture restorations my wife is always working on. It's the airport car. It's the fold down the back seat, toss my bike in the back car. And in a perfect world, I want another car that is kind of my fun to drive car because the RAV4 isn't fun to drive, but the reliability, the fuel economy, the road trip awesomeness of it is a clear winner for me. And let's not forget to ask Monty.
Hey, thanks, Quince.
What do you think? What are you choosing?
I think you both made great points, but for me, it's an easy choice. It's the CX-50 hybrid. To me, it feels like a RAV4 hybrid that went to finishing school. You know, when you think about the sharper handling, which I like because I kind of like to drive, on some fun roads, quieter cabin, much nicer interior. And I think it's for me, it does more of the things that I want a vehicle to do even on my day-to-day driving, let alone if I'm on a fun road. The one issue with me just being that I don't love the way the powertrain acts when you're a little harder on the gas pedal. So I guess, but one other question though. And actually, now that I think about it, I think we were thinking about doing a poll on this. Producer Dave, were we going to do a poll? Okay, so we're going to do a poll. So you know what? Keith went CX-50 hybrid. I went CX-50 hybrid. Quince went RAV4 hybrid. We're going to put a poll up on our YouTube page so you can all vote and tell us which one you think you should go with. But maybe the other question we should have asked ourselves is, would you go CX-50 hybrid or regular CX-50?
Oh, I'm always going to go the hybrid.
You're always going to. Okay.
I'm totally.
So that was it. In other words, I just asked a dumb question. Just say.
No,
just say. It's fine. Whatever.
No, I have a funny feeling out there because we've driven new hybrids. No, it's not a dumb question because we've had the luxury of driving the latest new hybrids.
Right.
And a lot of people out there, they think a hybrid is a 2001 Prius.
Right.
And it's not.
You're so
say,
right.
I'd never drive a hybrid, and that's just not the world we're living in. It's 2025, and hybrids are the often the best versions of cars.
And not, like you said, not even just for the fuel economy, which the fuel economy is usually incredible over the regular model.
And
but also
reliability.
they just drive better.
Yep.
You know,
and becoming more common. They're not this exotic thing anymore. And I managed to, avoid the glare of super producer Dave Abrams because I stuck to the plan, which was just pick either the Mazda or the Toyota. Because I was going to say, I don't know, maybe a Tucson hybrid or something like that.
I'm
but
sensing a glare right now.
It's okay.
There's a glare staring right at us.
It's
All right.
glare or flare. I don't know.
So, as I said, we do have a first drive of the 2025 Mazda CX-50 hybrid up on
It's full of
consumerreports.org.
relevant pop culture references.
Exactly.
No, it is
please check that out.
Masterfully written.
And now we're going to move on to our audience questions segment of the show. Remember, if you go to cr.org/talkingcars, you can submit a question to us there. And if we choose a question and use it on on one of the shows, we will send you some CR swag. So that's kind of intriguing. Maybe a T-shirt, maybe, I don't know, a hat. I have no idea what we have in the old giveaway
swag bag?
Yeah, swag bag.
Some old used socks.
Yeah,
or something.
and don't forget, folks, we love those video questions. I think that's what Jen Stockberger always says. Love, doesn't she say love? We love those. Maybe I'm making that up as well. Okay, so dumb question, dumb quote from someone else. But seriously, we do love the video questions. And wouldn't you know, we have 2 video questions that we're going to take a look at today.
I did not see that coming.
So let's start with Darnley from Yonkers, New York. But before we go to there, quick trivia. What does Yonkers have to do with CR?
I know that answer.
I have a funny feeling that we're going to save a lot on postage mailing Darnley his swag.
Because CR is based in Yonkers, New York. The Auto Test Center is here in Colchester, Connecticut, but the actual
Everything
headquarters
else,
is
the
Yonkers.
fridges, all
everything is
the
there.
other tests.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, so let's see what Darnley from Yonkers is asking us today. Go ahead.
Hey, Talking Cars. Love this show. Love it. I'm coming to the end of my lease on my Mazda CX-9, and CX-90 is nice and all, but I'm planning to switch over to Nissan for the Pathfinder. I guess it'll be a 25. And Nissan's going through some issues. They got some troubles. Do you think this is something that I could be able to take advantage of as far as negotiation? If so, let me know. Because I really like those. They're around number 15 on your reliability list. So I think they're pretty good. Thanks.
All right, so Darnley asked some pretty good questions there. Keith, I'm going to throw it to you first. Do you have an answer for him?
I really like how he's thinking here. I really like how he's thinking because I tend to buy things. I'm the guy who buys the floor model. I'm always sort of looking for that deal, and I think the reasoning is sound, but the reason why you might be able to get a good deal on a Pathfinder is not quite as cut and dry. So basically, he's thinking maybe Nissan will have like a
fire sale?
A fire sale. Well, no, don't talk about fires.
Okay,
no, not
delete
fires.
that out of there.
No, but Nissan will have a liquidation sale or something because some of their cars aren't selling quickly. It's actually a couple steps removed from that. It's if you're building, Nissan's having financial woes because the cars they're building aren't competitive.
Right.
So what does a dealership who's paid a lot of money to have a franchise do to move vehicles that aren't selling, before they have a birthday? They put incentives on them, and that's also what a car manufacturer does when vehicles aren't selling. They'll put incentives on them. That's how I leased a diesel Jaguar for $199 a month and $2,000 down a few years ago.
He does buy the weird.
I know he does.
I
know.
like it. So you're probably going to find, and actually I have friends who have actually done exactly this. They looked at other SUVs, they looked at the Highlander, they looked at and they decided, you know what? It's an SUV, it's my dog car, it's my bike car, it's the car the kids are going to grind goldfish into the carpets of. I'm going to get the Pathfinder. It's fine. And you know what? We think it's a fine car. So if you can get a good deal on it, especially in a lease, and they call them subvented leases, where the dealership will or where the automaker will put money on the hood of the car to get it to move to kind of juice those sales. Yeah, I would say go ahead. I don't think there's any problem. If you were talking about buying a Fisker Ocean, I'd say stay away.
Put on the brakes on that one.
Because
that's your next person.
But no. But at the same time, Nissan's going to be. I think I would put my money on Nissan's going to be around.
Totally agree.
In some form or another in the near future. They're having a little trouble, but it doesn't mean that it's a car I wouldn't buy.
Right. Quince, I feel like you have some more to add or maybe a different viewpoint.
Well, I think buying from a distressed automaker is an interesting idea, Keith, for everything that you just mentioned. But I'm wondering, with Darling, how long are you going to keep your car? I guess we're sort of assuming that he's going to go into another lease, for example. So, because if you're going to be buying, my response is going to be different than if you're leasing. Long-term depreciation really won't matter if you're leasing. If you're going to try to own it for a long time, then that's a different issue altogether. Cars that carry the highest premiums are the ones that are most desirable. Again, Keith, to your point. So that's why Nissans are, having trouble selling. But, my thought is, why would you settle for a mediocre car? And I think a lot of the Nissans in our testings are sort of mediocre. I mean, they're not horrible, but they're not really great. We just got finished talking about the Mazda CX-50, and you're saying to your friends and family, check out Mazda. Mazda is one of those manufacturers that flies under the radar, but they have really nice products. Nissan also is flying under the radar these days, but their products aren't as nice.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, if you are thinking about getting a deal from Nissan, I would go for a leftover Murano, because it did reasonably well in our testing. I know Darling's talking about 3-row SUVs. Do you really need 3 rows? If you can get by without 3 rows, you want to get a deal on a Nissan, check out the Murano. They did reasonably well in our testing. Okay for reliability, okay for owner satisfaction, but there's leftover brand new models. I've seen 2023 new Muranos on dealers' lots. You got to be able to get a killer deal on one of those.
And the new 2025s are coming out. In fact, we have one in the garage right now, which means those have been redesigned, which means they're going to want to get rid of. But I know you love those. You love those big 2-row SUVs. If we're going down that route,
it's not big.
Why not get a Hyundai Santa Fe hybrid?
Okay, so
why not get a Hyundai Santa Fe hybrid?
But I mean, I get you. We were trying to answer his question with Nissan speak, and I think the best answer is we'd consider a different brand.
So, both good points. I think you both make great points. What I would say is just keep in mind that neither the Pathfinder nor the CX-90 are CR recommended. So that would be one thing to think about. The CX-90 does have a slightly higher road test score. So meaning it is a nicer vehicle to drive. It is a more enjoyable vehicle to drive. But I would say even if you can get a great deal, you might, sort of to Quince's point, you might want to look at a vehicle that's a better vehicle, right? Both in terms of road test score and reliability. I totally see your point. And if you can get sometimes it doesn't matter. If you can get a great deal, if that's what you care about, then go for it. But if you're looking for a pretty nice car as well, there are better vehicles that you can get. That's the one thing I would say.
And you look at Darnley's video, in the background, he's got all these model cars behind him. I think he's a car guy. You're a car guy?
If you're a car guy, you can still go into your Pathfinder era. And, you can have your Pathfinder era. And it'll be the time where you lease the car. That's like
I see. I see what you're saying.
You put the money into
it. 10 years down the road, he will look back on
era.
Yeah, he'll look back on that Pathfinder era.
Episode.
I like it.
You need sort of the balance.
Yeah.
Okay,
fair point. Fair point.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to. We have another video here.
Good luck, Darnley.
Yeah, good luck. Another video from Michael from North Carolina. Let's see what Michael's talking about.
Hey, talking cars. I found out today that my Lexus NX 350h 2023's bushings need to be replaced. There's like 20,000 miles on it. I'm a design major. I think I like to know how cars work, how automakers think, and I just feel like they don't justify the brand loyalty anymore. I guess it's something I should just expect of all manufacturers. I'm not sure. Anyways, keep talking cars.
All right, Mike Quince, this time we're going to start with you. What's your answer for Michael?
Well, this this issue about having assuming your new Lexus having major mechanical it might be a one-off. I mean, our reliability data shows that the 2023 NX has very good reliability in the areas of steering and suspension. Of course, it's possible that even the most reliable vehicle in our latest reliability surveys, again, we're talking about the Toyota RAV4, not the hybrid this time, but the regular RAV4, you could still get a RAV4 Lemon. Yeah. This is just mass production, and sometimes things don't always, fit well. But we look at reliability not from a brand level, from a model level. We always say you can't just say, well, I'll get a fill in the blank manufacturer because it'll be reliable. Within all the manufacturers, there's some hits and some misses. Some vehicles that do better than others.
Toyota's trucks. Lately.
Exactly.
And I think what you're saying, Mike, is that even if it's supposed to be a super reliable vehicle, it is a mechanical object, and sometimes mechanical objects don't work right or fail or whatever. And our guess would be that this is not quite a one-off, but this is a rather unique what happened to Michael.
But I have a lot of questions. Did he buy it new? Did he buy it used? Was it involved in an accident? Do you tow with it? Do you haul lots of weight on a regular basis? Do you live on a especially bumpy road? Car companies are always looking for ways to improve their components or address customers' complaints. Mike Crossan, a frequent guest on Talking Cars, used to work at Mercedes as a tech. And he said they're always dealing with customer complaints. He gave an example of Mercedes S-Class. Very comfortable ride, but the bushings were wearing out around 15 to 20,000 miles, according to Mr. Crossan. The company went to a more robust settings for the bushings, which lasted longer, but the ride wasn't as smooth. So it's kind of like one of these things where automakers are going to make kind of compromises for either longevity or comfort. And he also told me that we replaced the rear axle at about 2,500 miles on our new Lexus TX500H. So, bushings are a wear item. They do wear out, but it's not a motor. It's not a transmission.
Yeah.
It isn't the center screen dying and you can't do anything, for example. Our reliability surveys, will show patterns of this if it actually is a reoccurring problem. So I would say let's keep looking at Consumer Reports reliability. Are we seeing issues with the Lexus NX on a regular basis? I would say don't give up on Lexus, the brand.
Yeah.
And I'm real sorry that this did, fail on you, because 20,000 miles for bushings is kind of too bad.
I'd say with any product, if these companies are going for 99.999% reliability, that 0.001 is still thousands of cars. And it's fascinating when you get into the manufacturing. It can be something like a temperature gauge was off one afternoon and, 30 parts made it to 30 cars and something was off. And with the thousands and thousands of components from different manufacturers that are coming into vehicles, you're bound to have something. I'll also say, I drive a lot in Durham, North Carolina. I don't know where you are, but the roads in Durham are, they're a little rough. Right. And going over some of those train tracks, it puts a little wear and tear in your car. You might have more than otherwise. With that said, it's very interesting. I think I hope you're a CR member, Michael, and that you're going to put this into when you respond to the survey and say what you had wrong with the car, because we're not going to know unless you tell us.
Yeah, these are CR's annual auto surveys that we send out to our members, and
which is how we determine reliability. Exactly. Which is interesting because personally, in like a couple of decades of driving cars that don't belong to me and reviewing them, the only ones that have left me stranded have actually been Toyotas and Hondas. And if I were to write the reviews myself, just from my own experience, I would say the exact opposite. I wouldn't say this because I believe in data, statistics and data, but if we were only going by, if it were the Keith Index, it would be, these cars might leave you stranded
because it happened to you.
Because it happened to me.
But just being very careful that just because this one thing happened, don't then decide that I'm never going to buy another Lexus.
Exactly.
I think that's where you're going.
And our brand level data shows, that some brands are a lot more. I'd invite you to get into some of those cars out there. And if you trade in that NX for something from, can I say a brand name?
Sure.
If you were trading in that NX from something from, I don't know, maybe Jeep.
Yep.
you would know what you would be like, are they bushings? Like, I can't go to work.
But I mean, this question, and as you said, Monty, we love the video questions, but it's an example of kind of anecdotal data.
Yeah.
So a number of people will be watching this podcast, hopefully, and they'll say, see, CR's data is wrong because one person had an issue with a typically reliable maker model. And that's absolutely not how we operate.
No,
we don't take just anecdotal information. I used to garner all the reader and subscriber questions from our old customer relations department down in Yonkers, New York, and after the April issue comes out, which is the big reliability issue, it's the big top picks issue. It has all it's like the top the greatest hits of Consumer Reports. And we get questions, comments from letters and emails all the time, and you would see stuff like, well, my neighbor has a Honda Accord, which you say is reliable, but his broke, and so your reliability data is wrong.
What happened to you stinks. It stinks. When your car, and especially if you've gone out and bought a car, I think it can almost, it's funny because our reliability data shows that there's this weird paradox that happens when we look at our owner satisfaction responses and our reliability. And you find that these people who buy these early adopter brands, where they're these new brands, Lucid, Rivian, Tesla, where they'll say, oh yeah, it breaks down all the time and I love it. And I think that people are way more upset when they go and they spend money on a Lexus and something goes wrong, because that's the whole thing. That's the whole point of Lexus, is that you're never supposed to have something go wrong. So when something goes wrong with it, you've done all the right things, you've done your research. So I get why that feels like a violation, but it doesn't mean that the brand is, now if this starts piling up and we start hearing a lot of people saying different story.
That's data.
And that's not what our data has shown us so far.
We
now,
haven't heard
Lexus and Toyota are still right near the top of our brand rankings. So in terms of reliability, so they're still right there. So Michael, don't give up on Lexus yet.
Or do. Go out and buy a Lucid and just to find out what happens.
Just to circle back to our conversation about the CX-50 versus the RAV4, we're talking about the drivability fun of the Mazda versus kind of the plain driving of the RAV4. And I know you guys, the three of us, are always getting questions about what car to buy from friends, family, neighbors, whatever. Haven't you gotten the questions like, I don't care about all the driving stuff. I just want it to be reliable. That's all I want. And
no one's ever asked me that. No one's ever said that to me. They just make it so much more vague. What's the best car I should buy?
Well,
I have no idea. I don't know.
Yes.
But people prioritize different things when they're car shopping. For some, it's safety. For others, it's performance.
For many people, it's price.
You're right. So it's like, dive deep into the reliability data if you're buying, but look at it at a model level and not just at a brand level.
But sorry that you got your bushings are worn. It stinks.
It does.
It stinks.
All right. Well, that's gonna do it.
At least you'll get some swag.
Yes, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Okay.
You never would have gotten the swag so think of it, put the bright side.
Clearly, Mike and Keith don't want this episode to end, but we are going to have to end this episode.
You know who wants it to end.
And so if you want to learn more about the topics and the cars we talked about, you can click on the links in the show notes, and don't forget to send us questions, comments, videos to cr.org/talkingcars.
Invectives, complaints about your Toyota that doesn't work right.
Yeah. All right. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.